there are certain times in which you will be asked to find the gradient between two specific points that lie on the same line, but they won't actually give you the equation of the line or an actual graph of the line where you can see where the line crosses the x and y axis. So the question is, how would you actually go about finding the gradient of that particular line? Well, we know that we need at least 2 points to properly define a line on the plane. So basically what we can do is we can say, okay, so if we're going to have something like this, so basically let's say this is the run, and this over here is the rise. Then what we can say from this, so basically what we're saying by that is that this is a right angle, so that's 90 degrees, these two lines are perpendicular. That if we take a difference of the height and a difference between the horizontal difference between those 2 points, then we should be able to calculate the gradient. So gradient is rise over run. So that means that if we look very carefully at this diagram, we should be able to see that the rise is going to be given by the difference between the y coordinates. So if we go from here, this is the higher one, we can write y2 minus y1. That's going to give us the total distance here along the y-axis. And then the total distance across the x-axis is going to be given by the difference between the x coordinates. So we're going to have x2 minus x1. And it is important that we always do it in the same order that we're defining it. So basically point 2 goes here, point 1 goes there. It doesn't matter which one we do first though, because in the end we should get the same gradient. So to give you an example, I could say find a gradient between the following 2 points. Let's say 0 and 1. And then there's another point here, say minus... No, actually, that should be positive, right? 2 and 3. So in that case, what we're going to do is we're going to say, okay, so what's the gradient that will correspond to that point? Well, let's see what we have here. We have the gradient is going to be the difference between the y coordinates. So that's going to be 3 minus 1. And then the difference between the x coordinates is going to be 2 minus 0. So this is going to be 2 divided by 2, which is going to be equal to 1. And then, if we were to do it the other way around, if we were to use the coordinates of the first point first, then let's see what we would get. We would get 1 minus 3, and then we would get 0 minus 2. So the top is minus 2, bottom is minus 2. These two negative signs cancel out, and we get a gradient of 1 again. So you can see that as long as you're putting the coordinates in the right place, it doesn't matter whether you do this point minus that one or this one minus that one, you always get the same gradient because we know that this line is pointing in that direction. And basically based on that, we can now actually find a gradient between any 2 points that we want. So let's calculate the gradients between the 2 points here. So we have 1, 2, and 3, 6. So let's do this one minus that one. So we have y coordinates 6 minus 2, x coordinates 3 minus 1. So we have 4 divided by 2, and that's going to be a gradient of 2. For this example here, let's do the same order again. So we have 3 minus 2 for the y coordinates, and then we have 2 minus 0. So the top is 1, the bottom is 2, so we have a gradient of half. For this one here, we have 2 minus, and this is negative, so that's quite important. That's going to be minus 1. And in the bottom, we have minus 2 minus minus 3. So we have 2 plus 1. This becomes positive, so that's minus 2 plus 3. And then we have 3 divided by 1. So the gradient is going to be 3. And you can check that that's correct by doing it the other way around. So doing 0.1 minus 0.2 and so on. And now what we're going to do is going to go with the next one. So the gradient in this one is going to be 0 minus 3. and then we have 7 minus 4. So at the top we have minus 3, bottom we have 3. So this becomes a gradient of minus 1. And the last one is going to be minus 2. So let's do it from here to there. So m is equal to 0 minus 3. And then minus 1 minus minus 2. So minus 1 minus minus 2. That's minus 3. Divided by minus 1 plus 2. That's going to be plus 1. So that's going to be minus 3. And that's how you calculate the gradient between any 2 points in case that you're not given a graph of a straight line or the equation.